Hello and welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about rainwater collection and usages. In the summer, it's becoming increasingly common to hear about water restrictions and low reservoir levels. Here in the Pacific Northwest, I think it's extremely important to recognize what a privilege we have to be able to turn on a tap pretty much everywhere and have fresh, clean water available and on demand, and most of the times in large quantities if we really needed it. For that reason, wherever I can, I like to do a small part to help reduce the demand by collecting and using rainwater for me to use on my own. It's a simple and practical way to incorporate a little bit more sustainability into everyday life. Before we get started, I just want to mention that every area has different rules and regulations when it comes to collecting and using rainwater. The requirements can be different for drinking water, called potable water, and non-drinking water, called non-potable water use. There also may be limits on the amount of water that can be collected, and if you build a bigger system, how many homes the system can serve. So before you get started on your project, be sure to please check the guidelines and regulations for your local area. In this video specifically, I'm going to be focusing on small-scale, non-potable rainwater use because I think this is the perfect place to start if you're a beginner who is interested in sustainable or alternative water sources. Metro Vancouver released a guidebook in 2022 for non-potable water systems. In that guide, they define non-potable water to be water that is not suitable for drinking, but may be used for other purposes as long as the water quality is appropriate for that use. Some examples of rainwater uses mentioned in this guide include watering your plants in your garden, washing your cars, and if you have the proper systems and approvals, you can use it indoors for flushing your toilet. Again, the key idea here is that the water quality should match the intended use. It goes into detail in this in the guide, and I'll be sure to link it in the description below. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is how does a simple rainwater collection system work? So there's three main steps. The rain will fall onto a collection surface. From this surface, the rainwater is directed through conveyance into a storage container, and then once the water is stored, it can be used for non-potable purposes. To keep things simple, I recommend that beginners keep the system outdoors and completely separate from the plumbing inside of the house. Once a rainwater system is connected to indoor plumbing, additional regulations and safety requirements usually apply. And now that we understand the flow of the system, let's talk about materials. The first component is a collection surface. This could be the existing roof on your house, your garage, or your shed, or you might even choose to set up a tarp or a separate temporary catchment surface outside, like this one behind me. If you choose to collect water from your roof, just take a moment to think about the roof material. Could the water pick up any chemicals or other contaminants from the surface that would affect the quality of water for your intended use? You should take a look if your roof is plastic, if it's made from tar, or if it's metal. The next is the conveyance, which is simply how the water gets from the collection surface into the storage container. When you're designing this, some questions to ask yourself are, will the water have to travel a long distance? Can you use your existing gutter systems? Will you need a new gutter or a new downspout? Or can the water just directly run into the catchment container? So now we have the water has been collected on the surface and is being contained into your storage container. Let's talk more about the storage container. So the thing to think about is how much water do you actually want to store? A small barrel might be enough for watering plants, or you might need a bit of a larger barrel if you want to water a whole garden and your yard and wash your car. Just like the solar panel batteries I mentioned a couple videos before, your system is only as good for as much water as you can collect. Finally, we'll decide how to use your water and get it out of the storage container. The simplest option is just to have a scoop with water, watering can or a bucket out of your storage container. You could also attach a hose or a spigot to the container for easier access, and maybe if you want to spray across your whole yard. If you do attach a hose though, just make sure that it's clearly labeled as non-potable water so nobody accidentally drinks from it. Now that you've answered those questions, you can start designing and building your system just like that. Since these systems are very specific to your needs and what systems you have in place that you can incorporate and the rules and regulations of your system, I won't be building one in this video, but I can take you through a tour of my water collection system behind me with using a tarp straight into a barrel. I am fortunate to have a lot of space in a yard, so I have set up quite a large tarp system running across some cables with some supports at the corners. And when it rains, the rain falls over the surface area and there's a weight right as it goes into the bucket. So the water just falls down into where the weight is and drains straight into the bucket. From there we can scoop it and pour it onto our flowers. Don't be intimidated by this large setup. You can use any size tarp that you have and it will make a difference. We choose to take these systems down in the winter because there tends to be a lot more wind, kind of stormy weather that might rip the tarp because it is only temporary. It's not a permanent structure like your roof. And then we just set it back up again in the spring, and when it's still rainy, and it can stay up until the fall when the wind starts to pick up again. Whether you use a tarp big or small, or a little bit of your existing roof structure into a barrel, as I mentioned earlier, rainwater collection is a great way to add a little bit of sustainability into your daily life, improve climate resilience where you live, and also potentially reduce your water bill by decreasing your water utility usage. Thank you so much for watching this video and learning the steps and questions you might need to think about before designing your own rainwater system. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks!